Howdy, my name is Ted Campbell, and I want to tell you a little about my great-grandfather, James Allen Campbell. James Allen Campbell was a native of Cannon County, Tennessee, in central Tennessee, south and east of Nashville. He was the third child of John Watson Campbell and John Watson Campbell's first wife, Ceretia Emelina Morgan. His middle name, Allen, was the first name of his maternal grandfather, Ceretia's father, Allen Morgan, who was himself a very close friend of James Allen's paternal grandfather, Thomas Campbell. The middle name Allen was bequeathed to a line of Campbell men that would include James Allen Campbell's son, Elam Allen Campbell, his son, Gene Allen Campbell, and then his son, Ted Allen Campbell. And that's me. James Allen Campbell was born on the 21st of September, 1872, just 7 years after the end of the Civil War. His great-grandfather Archibald Campbell had died the year before he was born, and when he was 13 years old, in 1886, his grandfather Thomas Campbell died in Cannon County, Tennessee. All of his ancestors had been farmers, and James Allen would be the first generation who tried to make a living outside of traditional farming. As a young man, James Allen Campbell attended Woodbury College in Woodbury, the county seat of Cannon County. Woodbury College had originally been established in 1855. This college, as many similarly named institutions of its time, provided the equivalent of an early high school education for students. Woodbury College would eventually become Woodbury Central High School. A report card for the spring term 1893, when James Allen Campbell was 20 years old, shows that he made a 99 in written arithmetic, 100 in algebra, 98 in grammar, 96 in rhetoric, and 94 in bookkeeping. He's also listed as making 100 in the general category of deportment, and I think that means how you look and act. At some point in his early life, James Allen Campbell sat for a portrait that is either in pencil or more likely charcoal, a portrait that depicts him as a man of delicate features dressed in a fine suit. On March 29, 1894, James Allen Campbell signed a contract with the directors of School District 1 in Cannon County to serve as a school teacher beginning on the 10th of July, 1895, for which he was to be paid $35 per month. One of the three directors of the school district who signed the contract was John Campbell, who could have been his father, John Watson Campbell. A family story that I heard repeated by my grandfather Elam Campbell was that James Campbell taught school in the church building that was to become the Sunny Slope Church of Christ on Hollis Creek Road in western Cannon County. James Allen Campbell paid taxes in Cannon County, Tennessee for every year between 1894 and 1896, and then paid a poll tax in 1897 in Warren County, where his father and stepmother had settled. He was probably still living with his parents in the Dibrell community in Warren County then, the year before his own marriage. James Allen Campbell and Lily Ann Sullivan applied for a marriage license back in Cannon County on January 22, 1898, and their marriage was solemnized on the next day, Sunday, January 23, 1898, by Justice of the Peace J.T. Jetson. Lily Ann Sullivan's father was James T. Sullivan, who lived from 1850 to 1906. Her mother was Nancy Elizabeth McBroom, 1852 to 1934, the daughter of James McBroom and Rachel C. Hayes. The McBroom family was a Scots-Irish family that had come to Rowan County, North Carolina, and then to the part of Tennessee that would become Cannon County. One of Nancy McBroom's great-uncles, Henry D. McBroom, was a pioneering settler of the area that became Cannon County, and in fact the county government had been organized in his home in 1836. This photograph shows Lily, probably wearing a corset, with some of her McBroom relatives in front of the old McBroom house off Hollis Creek Road. The particular branch of the McBroom family from which Nancy was descended lived in the western edge of Cannon County on Hollis Creek Road south of the Braxton community. Many of their ancestors are buried in the McBroom family cemetery on a ridge just southwest of the present intersection of Hollis Creek Road and U.S. Highway 70S. James and Lily Campbell resided in Cannon County after their marriage, and I have the impression that they were more closely connected to the McBroom family than the Campbell family there. This may have been due to the fact that James Allen's own father, John Watson Campbell, had moved away from Cannon County sometime between 1893 and 1900. My grandfather, Allen Campbell, the son of James Campbell, kept many contacts with the McBroom relatives in Tennessee and in Texas, and I recall visiting McBroom relatives while visiting Tennessee with my grandfather when I was a child. James and Lily Campbell settled in western Cannon County in a community known as Braxton, about 4 miles west of Woodbury, just inside Cannon County from the village of Reedyville in adjacent Rutherford County. Records kept in our family reveal a few details about the life of James and Lily Campbell. In June of 1899, for example, James Campbell took out a loan in Woodbury for $11 to purchase a buggy and harness. He repaid the loan by the end of August. Between 1899 and 1900, he supervised the construction of a rock fence for Lily's uncle W.R. McBroom. In June 1900, James Campbell compiled a carefully itemized list, 2 pages long, of household items purchased at sale of Mrs. Sullivan's, including a spinning wheel, a churn, irons, various dishes and utensils, and a Seth Thomas clock valued at 65 cents. The items purchased also included a wheat crop valued then at $8, which he harvested and sold to J.R. Hale and Sons of Murfreesboro on July 20th, 1900 for $55. He must have carefully calculated that by purchasing, harvesting, and selling the wheat crop, he could pay for the items from the household sale. There's another portrait of him that may date from this period, showing him looking very much as I remember his son, Johnny Campbell. At some point, James Allen Campbell began working in Nashville at the J.W. Carter and Company shoe factory. He and Lily apparently lived part-time in Nashville and part-time back in Braxton. The first son of James and Lily, Elam Allen Campbell, was born on December 1, 1898 in Nashville. A second son, James Thomas or Jimmy Campbell, was born in 1900, and a third son, John D. or Johnny Campbell, was born in 1904. We know that Johnny was born in Cannon County, and this photograph from 1957 shows a house that's identified as the place where Johnny was born. In May of 2012, I visited Hollis Creek Road and talked to folks at this house, which looks very similar to the house shown in the older photo. James Allen and Lily Ann Campbell became associated in Braxton with the Churches of Christ, an American religious movement founded by Scots-Irish Presbyterians Thomas and Alexander Campbell, who had become Baptists for a while in the 1820s and then in the 1830s renounced all denominational identification to be known simply as Churches of Christ or Disciples of Christ. The Campbellite movement had grown from its origins in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and had become prominent throughout the South and Midwest of the United States in the late 1800s. James and Lily Ann Campbell attended the Braxton Church of Christ in western Cannon County. This church building was destroyed subsequently by a tornado, and members of the congregation may have gone to the Sunny Slope Church of Christ on Hollis Creek Road, just south of the site of Braxton. At least my grandfather Elam Campbell remembered that the family was somehow associated with the Sunny Slope Church of Christ. Between the births of Jimmy Campbell in 1900 and Johnny Campbell in 1904, James Allen, Lily Ann, Elam, and Jimmy Campbell paid an extended visit to relatives who had settled in Nederland, Texas. Oil had been discovered in Beaumont, not far from Nederland, on January 10, 1901, and during the years 1902 and 1903, there was a strong influx of population into the Beaumont area seeking opportunities related to the discovery of oil. It appears that Lily Ann's sister Maggie Sullivan Stroud, her husband Hiram Stroud, and possibly her brother Herman Sullivan were already living in Nederland at the time when James and Lily Ann visited there. A postcard indicates that James Campbell and Lily Campbell were still in Braxton, Tennessee, as late as October 31, 1902, but receipts and other records kept in our family show activities in Texas between January 7, 1903 and May 28th of that year. It would appear that they were at least exploring the possibility of settling in Texas at that time because they paid rent for the months they were there. But they did not remain. A notice in a Nederland newspaper kept in our family observed their departure. J.A. Campbell and family left Wednesday for their old home in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We are sorry to lose these good citizens in this way, but it cannot always be our pleasure and selection. By September 17, 1903, they were back in Braxton, Tennessee. Upon his return, James Campbell had to borrow $30 from a Woodbury attorney, Will A. Vick. This suggests that the Texas trip had exhausted whatever funds the family may have had. We have receipts from Nashville businesses that show that James Campbell was back working there between February 4, 1905 and December 15th of that year. 2 receipts indicate that James Campbell saw a physician, Dr. Robert L. Hayes, in Nashville on July 19th and July 30th, 1905. We know that he lived at 1010 North 6th Street in an area of Nashville that's now called East Side. Google Earth shows a house at this address, but I doubt that it's the house that was there in 1905 when James Allen and Lily and their boys lived in Nashville. The fact that James Allen Campbell was seeing a doctor in Nashville in 1905 was a harbinger of medical problems to come. He entered the Nashville City Hospital on the 4th of July, 1906, with a case of acute appendicitis, and he died at the hospital 2 days later on Friday, July 6, 1906. He was buried on the next day, Saturday, July 7th of that year, at the age of 33, in the McBroom family cemetery in Cannon County, though there is no surviving marker for him in the cemetery. My grandfather, Allen Campbell, recalled the difficulty that the wagon carrying his father's coffin had in getting up to the ridge on the day his father was buried. The correspondence section of the Cannon Courier for July 14, 1906, has a note from the Hollis Creek community dated Thursday, July 11th, in which are the following 2 sentences. We are sorry to say that Jim Campbell was buried Saturday. He leaves a wife and 3 children to mourn their loss. The death of James Allen Campbell was especially tragic for Lily Ann Campbell, who found herself widowed at the age of 32 with 3 sons, aged 8, 6, and 2, and almost certainly with little or no financial resources. According to family records, her father, James Sullivan, had also died in 1906, and that would have been yet another blow for her and her family. But Lily proved to be a resourceful woman. Within a year of James Allen's death, she packed up her 3 boys and moved them to Texas, first to Hill County, where some of her McBroom relatives had settled, and then to Jefferson County. She ran a boarding house near the Spindletop oil field and eventually purchased a home on Shell Street in the new Beaumont suburb of South Park. Lily, then, was able to accomplish what James Allen Campbell had not accomplished. She found a way to live in the modern industrial world. James Allen Campbell's life was cut tragically short, but it represents what was happening in the world of his day, as Southern folk, after the Civil War, began to live into the industrial, non-agricultural world. He and Lily were a bit ahead of the curve, in fact, because we usually say that the South did not become significantly industrialized until the 1930s and beyond. But in Nashville and southeast Texas, they connected themselves to some of the earliest instances of Southern industrialism. James Allen Campbell bequeathed to his family his attempt to live in a new, modern way. He bequeathed to us his own commitment to education and the strong faith in which he and Lily raised their boys. Thanks to God for the gift of James Allen Campbell. May light perpetual shine on him.